Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Pfiffner, assuming no quid pro quo, no payment or anything like that, and assuming they're not talking about themselves, just to be clear, does the Constitution give the President of the United States broad and almost absolute authority to pardon others for federal crime?
Correct.
Correct. He gets broad, almost kind of blanket authority that the President has, assuming he's not trying to pardon himself or anything that was just discussed with the previous member of Congress. Okay, so the ones that he's done this year, so let's talk about the current president, President Trump, the pardons he's given. Has he done anything wrong with those particular pardons?
You or I or many people might think that it's an abuse of power, but he has the constitutional authority to be able to do that legally, yes.
Mr. Arpaio was fine.
Pardon?
Mr. Arpaio was fine. One of the pardons, Mr. Arpaio.
Constitutionally and legally, yes.
Scooter Libby was fine.
Legally, yes.
Okay. Jack Johnson.
Well, that is posthumous and maybe not necessary, but sure.
No one got paid there, right? Right? Mr. Johnson, he's passed away, right? So that was fine, right?
Yes.
How about Dinesh D'Souza? Is that okay?
Yes.
And I think the other one was Mr. Saucier, is that right? I think there's been 5, is that correct?
Whoever, yes.
Whoever, yes, so that hasn't been a problem. And how about any sentences that were commuted? Miss Johnson, Alice Johnson, I think.
Sure, commuting sentences is part of the pardon power.
Same thing. So we got this hearing and all, we're all this concerned, but there has been no problem whatsoever thus far with this power as is currently under the Constitution. We have a bill that wants to change it, but it's worked out all right, hasn't it?
There could be problems with it, but there's not a constitutional or legal prohibition on it.
Fine, thank you. Ms. Frederickson, let me go back to where the ranking member was. I want to look at what you said 5 days ago. You wrote for a piece, where'd you write the piece? Was this in the newspaper or was this a statement or press release? Press release. The question isn't whether members of the Trump campaign conspired with Russia to sway the 2016 elections. We already know they did. You stand by that statement?
We have much evidence, as I've answered several times already.
Let me read from the special counsel's, the letter by the Attorney General referencing the special counsel's report. It says this: the special counsel did not find that the Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in these efforts.
The Attorney General's letter said that conspiracy was not established. They examined evidence. There's evidence. Does not necessarily mean that the special counsel decided to move forward.
So I guess the question is Bob Mueller wrong?
We need to see what he found.
That wasn't my question. My question is Bob Mueller wrong?
I'd have to look at the evidence, as I think Congress needs to.
The special counsel did not find that any U.S. person or Trump campaign official or associate conspired or knowingly coordinated with Russia. The special counsel did not find that the Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in these efforts. Despite the interesting clause that follows next, despite multiple offers from Russian-affiliated individuals to assist the Trump campaign. So multiple times they dangled the fruit in front of them and they chose not to take it. And yet you said, we already know they did. I'm trying to figure out who's right, you or Bob Mueller.
I think we need to see what Bob Mueller was examining. It looks from the Attorney General's letter that it was limited to only the hacking and leaking and the Russian troll effort, as opposed to some of the other evidence that we've seen in the public.
But you were dogmatic. You were emphatic. You said, we already know they did. And 2 days later, the special counsel, via the letter from the Attorney General of the United States, says, no, they didn't. So someone's right and someone's wrong, and I'm just trying to figure out who it is.
I have to refer back to what I said earlier. There are over 100 contacts between various Russians and Russian-affiliated people with the Trump campaign, the Trump administration, the Trump family, and that's certainly evidence. If Mr. Mueller didn't find it conclusive, then I think it's up to Congress to examine.
That is not evidence of conspiring, collusion, or coordination. That is not. Because he said this, based on these activities, the special counsel brought criminal charges against a number of Russian military officers for conspiring to hack into computers in the United States for purpose of influencing the election. But the special counsel did not find that the Trump campaign or anyone associated conspired with Russians, even though they were given multiple chances to do so. They chose not to do so. But yet you pronounced to the whole world 2 days before this letter, we know they did.
Will the gentleman yield?
No, I got 8 seconds. All I'm asking is is Bob Mueller wrong? And you're the head of the Constitutional
As I
Society,
said,
so I want to know what your
there
thoughts
was
are.
much public evidence that there were contacts between many Russians, and not just the Russian government, but private people who were very close to the Russian
if I could,
government,
Ms.
with
Frederickson.
the Trump administration, the Trump campaign.
But that's not what you said. You said the question isn't whether members of the Trump campaign conspired with Russia. We know they did. So you're not talking about contacts. People can contact folks all the time. I bet Mr. Klein's a freshman member of Congress. I bet he's contacted foreigners because they come to see him, because it's important that they talk people from different embassies. That happens all the time. So contacts is a lot different than conspiring. You said 2 days before this letter from the Attorney General, we know they conspired. And Bob Mueller said, no, they didn't. Very clearly, very often, and he even emphatically said they were given multiple chances to conspire and they didn't go for it. That is completely opposite of what you said 2 days before. And all I'm asking is, are you calling Bob Mueller a liar?
No, I'm not. But I do think that this Congress needs to look and see what that evidence was.
That raises
And
one last question, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
I
Are you going to take back your statement?
Once the Mueller report comes out and the Congress has had a chance to examine it, I'd welcome an invitation
You are
to come
gonna take it back.
to discuss it.
Mr. Chairman, I look forward to having Ms. Frederickson back in front of this committee.
Thank you,
in
Mr.
case of
Jordan.
point.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan.